the crack of the bat, the energy of Ebbets Field. Jackie Robinson hits another home run.
Shine a light or I'll never get back to Brooklyn.
The daily rhythms of the neighborhood. People and cars, family and friends. The sounds of Brooklyn in the 1940s. The soundtrack for a young man's formative years through an open bedroom window.
Shine a light or I'll never get back to Brooklyn.
The soundtrack of the life of this New York native has changed. This boy, who clearly ignored limiting signs, grew into an accomplished man. This young man, the first in his family to attend college, found his way to a scholarship at Princeton and law degree from Columbia. This teenager, who didn't know what to study or what to do with his life, is now described as one of the great thinkers in the forefront of aviation policy. By way of New York, Washington, D.C., an African sojourn, extensive Southeast Asia work, Sri Lanka, the Philippines, Thailand, and 4 years in Montreal, tonight's Cecile S. Hatfield Award winner is a true citizen of the world. The view from the bedroom window in Brooklyn became a world view.
I first met Jeff in 1988 when someone recommended him to me when I became Secretary of Transportation. At that time they said, this is one of the real stars in aviation law and aviation policy, and he ought to be part of your team. And after interviewing him and talking to others, it was quite clear he was that person. He was at my side for 3 years plus at the Department of Transportation, and we did great things, a lot of which were because of his efforts. He was a solid leader, a good friend, and a great patriot. And I'm so proud that he's receiving this award at this time. It's probably long overdue, but I can think of no one that will do a better job representing the Hatfield Award than Jeff Shane. So congratulations, Jeff, and congratulations to all those at Embry-Riddle, a school I am very fond of.
Jeff's legal career began in Washington, D.C. as a trial attorney at the Federal Power Commission. At Columbia Law, he found that economic regulation was a subject that most interested him. So the FPC, a classic regulatory agency, was a good springboard for his fledgling career. Shortly after, a new cabinet department, the U.S. Department of Transportation, was formed, and Jeff was brought on board as a litigator. He represented the DOT during a time of great change and learned a lot about the regulation of transportation along the way. This first position, Attorney and Special Assistant for Environmental Affairs, was the beginning of 20 years of service at the DOT and 3 presidential appointments. Trial Attorney and Special Assistant for Environmental Affairs, Special Watergate Investigator, Assistant General Counsel for International Law, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy and International Affairs, Assistant Secretary for Policy and International Affairs, Associate Deputy Secretary of Transportation, Undersecretary of Transportation for Policy. In addition to these senior positions at the DOT, Jeff also served as the primary U.S. aviation negotiator as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Transportation Affairs. He taught international law at Georgetown University for 4 years, a role which provided him an important, enjoyable professional experience. Through it, he came to recognize his passion for mentoring and developing others. Shane was very busy during his years at the DOT, but he did find some time to get married at age 52 to Jean Wu, a successful information technology entrepreneur whose schedule was just as demanding as Jeff's was. Waiting so long, Jeff calls himself a great procrastinator. But he wanted to get it right. In 2007, he was elected president of the Triennial Assembly of the UN, International Civil Aviation Organization, the first American to serve in this role in almost 50 years. Jeff's greatest contribution during his years at the DOT might be his role as principal architect of the approach to international aviation alliances and antitrust immunity. He is credited with proposing and executing the U.S. Open Skies policy, a radical departure from traditional approaches to international aviation agreements of landing rights. In 1992, he presided over the world's first Open Skies agreement made with the Netherlands, and in 1993, signed the first order granting antitrust immunity to Cross-Border Airline Alliance. These two departures, Open Skies and antitrust immunity, revolutionized the international aviation landscape by enabling more convenient, worldwide air connections and enhancing competition and competitive pricing. The result made air travel more affordable and readily available to millions of travelers and led to a dramatic expansion in international freight movements. Shane's work was under constant scrutiny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to repeat again, Ms. Shane, your statement is perhaps the most Orwellian that I have heard in 10 years. It has the least touch with reality of anything I've ever heard.
At one point during Jeff's career at the DOT, he took special note of two long hallways that he walked through each morning to get to his office. They were bright, white, and empty. Knowing that he worked with an incredible group of talented individuals, he asked them to help enhance the walls with their own personal artistic creations. There was an overwhelming response, and for years he curated a great team-building experience through staff art shows. Shane left the Department of Transportation in 2008. At his going-away party, then Secretary of Transportation, Mary Peters, honored and surprised him with a long-lasting and most unusual gift, the establishment of the Jeffrey N. Shane Gallery of Art in the Department of Transportation headquarters. Years later, his two young daughters visited the gallery for the first time while on a trip to D.C. and enjoyed seeing Dad's name on the wall. You can still see it there today.
Jeff Shane is one of the world's foremost aviation experts. He has dedicated his entire career to making aviation safer and more accessible. Jeff had worked at the U.S. Department of Transportation during pivotal times in aviation history. He negotiated the U.S.-European Open Skies Agreement, and he was the first undersecretary in the U.S. Department of Transportation. His steady hand, calm demeanor, and vast knowledge base made him beloved by the department's employees. In fact, he has a singular distinction of having a walkway named after him, the Jeffrey N. Shane Gallery at the department's headquarters. A leader, a visionary, Jeff made a big difference for our country and the world. This is a supremely well-deserved recognition. Congratulations, Jeff.
After retiring from government work, Shane became a partner at the Washington, D.C. office of Hogan Lovells, where he worked for 7 years, primarily concentrating on aviation law. He has spent a total of 14 years in private practice. But after more than 4 decades in Washington, D.C., Jeff was very attracted to the position of Chief Legal Officer for the International Air Transport Association, which in 2013 was located in Montreal. The position managed IATA's legal service group, the delivery of legal support to their operational units around the world, and the interface with member airlines to address legal issues. Montreal, the cultural capital of Canada, took Jeff and his wife, his 2 daughters, to an even more internationally inspired locale, with a new language and a European flair. Jeff's daughters learned French, and the differently diverse culture provided another aspect to their original heritage and DC upbringing. Shane's work was cut out for him in Montreal. He began by focusing on the consolidation of IATA's externally provided legal services. With over 130 firms providing millions of dollars of legal services, there was an inadequate quality control. Now, there are 2 law firm consortia, one for this hemisphere and one for the rest of the world. There are policies and procedures, blended rates, and quality control criteria. And Shane is focusing on the professional development of his own team, providing a more transparent career path and professional development opportunities to prepare the team for whatever legal challenges arise. Shane moved to Geneva, Switzerland in 2017, providing a more centrally located facility to manage the worldwide association and a new home for the Shane family. Shane continues to grow his influence in aviation. In 2017, he was appointed to the Federal Aviation Administration Management Advisory Council, and in 2019 to NASA's National Space-Based Positioning, Navigation, and Timing Advisory Board. Jeff likes to say that he stumbled into a very rewarding career, that he was the beneficiary of a lot of dumb luck. But whether Jeff was hiking in Thailand, sailing the Chesapeake Bay, scuba diving in the Red Sea, channeling John Travolta, or enjoying his family, Jeff knows how to live life to the fullest. He believes that air transportation is an important driver of global economic growth. He is proud to continue working to expand its availability and to advocate and even litigate on the industry's behalf. It is virtuous work that brings him great satisfaction. Please help us wish Jeffrey N. Shane a continuation of his rewarding career and congratulate him on being the 2020 Cecile S. Hatfield Award recipient for excellence in aviation law.